Started here, letting everybody sign in. Just running a tiny bit late today, but I'm going to get this up and ready to go in just 1 second. So as people start signing in, if you could take a minute, go over to the chat. Let's make sure the chat works, number one, because sometimes the chat's turned off inside of Zoom. So jump over to the chat, and I want you to tell me where you're coming from, like part of the world, city, state, or country. And number two would be, what is your job title? Throw it into the chat as you're signing in. I'm just making sure that our chat is actually working here. Got to jump into the settings. This is what happens when I'm doing the webinar on my own and I don't have my normal helpful assistant who would have been here to take care of this at my old company. And instead, it's just me struggling along. So as everybody's getting called in here, I'm going to get this to work the right way, and then we'll get started in 2 seconds. So let's make sure the chat works. There's a Q&A thing, which means I'm guessing the chat might not be working. Minnesota HR generalist, excellent, welcome. I'm guessing that's Anna, or it's Anna and you typed it wrong, or it's Amna. That's a beautiful name. Excellent. All right, so we're gonna get started. I just gotta get my thing up here, and we will get going. Today we're gonna talk about something really, I think it's pretty cool. We're recording this, so if you're watching on the recording, there was a handful of people here. I got them together and said, I'm just going to record and flow out this concept of how to use AI to make your job easier in HR. And so it's super interesting, just kind of a strange day today. I started writing a book, about 4 months ago about my working moms at Applicant Pro and about moms in the workforce. And it's morphing into kind of like a talent engine. And so part of the content from this, the talent engine part, comes from this book. But this morning I started working on a little side part of that about culture and building companies based off of working moms. And so today, as we're looking through this mom force stuff, or we're looking through this AI stuff, I want you to keep that in mind. One of the most powerful things about AI that it just hit me this morning and over the weekend was its ability to give you as an employee leverage over your job. Here's what I mean by that. Normally, we're getting paid for the time we put into the job. And whether that's hourly or salary, this expectation of 40 hours a week or a 4-day work week or whatever is really based in the root that the culture, I'm trying to make sure that I got my deck on my computer, and I think I didn't press send. There we go. Some days. That our culture has decided that work and the result, the potential output of their work, the value you can bring to an organization is equal to the amount of time you will commit. And that right there is a major problem in the world. It used to be true when we were making hamburgers and manufacturing and you worked on a manufacturing line, somebody needed to be there during that time. Therefore, we needed as employers to buy hours. Now, as we shift over into retail, then we need coverage, which again, we as employers need to buy hours. But as we move into more of knowledge workers, like HR is not a coverage customer service person, just like accountants aren't. There's a job to be done. The timing of that job isn't as important in what hours of the day as it being done in a timely manner is. And so that kind of shifts the way you think about work. And this is probably the number one thing for me. And I'm just we'll get this loaded up here. I'll give you my backstory if you haven't met me before. My name is Ryan Kohler, Ryan K, however you want to tell. At Applicant Pro, I'm Ryan Kohler. At Refer, I'm Ryan K. And so over the last 20 years, I've been in the tech world. I studied accounting, not tech. I got an MBA with an accounting emphasis, and I quit my accounting job and decided that I would go into the tech world, into web marketing, and then into SaaS. And then I built a software company called Applicant Pro that was HR SaaS. And just a very interesting story as we start talking about the goal of today's call. Now, just so everybody knows, I'm going to make this so I can, only the host can share. Man, this is like multiple panelists can share. We'll try it again. Share my screen. This is going to be a little bit off today, just so everybody knows. Thank you so much for coming. Just because this is my first run through of this. So I allocated 90 minutes. I could literally talk on this all day long. And so, but I got to get our chat working really quick here. But the Q&A session works. So you can just throw it into the Q&A. So go over to the Q&A since the chat apparently isn't working right now. I'm going to get my screen on here. There we go. The Q&A section is up. And so as you go through this, throw in your questions as we're going into the open question, because the chat's not working and I'll work with them from there. Minnesota HR generalist, we've got you on the line, and you're going to be our, I know Steve's also here from Applicant Pro. So between the two of you, I need some good feedback as we're going through this presentation. And by feedback, I mean questions and comments and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to jump in and start flowing this out. I got to make sure that everything's working the right way. Perfect. I need to hide this. It's weird that I'm seeing myself while also, there we go. There, we got it out of the way. All right, so we're going to jump in. So AI is all the buzz right now. Like it, and if it isn't the buzz, it might not be the buzz in HR from everybody's talking about it. Maybe it's everybody's afraid of it or doesn't know. The unknown, the uncertainty of it is really, really scary. So I come from the world of tech. I'm not a programmer. I built a SaaS company, but really kind of boring SaaS. Not that HR is boring per se, but HR, or human resources and hiring, is a slower adopter of a technology. Therefore, it evolves slower. And so it's kind of behind the curve of tech evolution compared to, say, the marketing world. It actually was a huge superpower for me. And we're going to talk about these superpowers. It was a huge superpower for me as we grew Applicant Pro, because when I realized that we were just building a marketing company, a marketing platform that happened to do HR, I could see out in front of me what was going to happen next by looking at the other world, the marketing world, and seeing what HubSpot and those guys have built next. It gave me one of my superpowers. And the goal of today's call is for me to show you one of my superpowers that I've been working on pretty much nonstop for the last little bit. And that is AI. And I am not a pro at it. I promise you one thing, there are definitely pros at it. I didn't build AI. I use AI. I'm going to show you how I use it. Right now, I probably am something like 30 plus hours a week of me and ChatGPT together. It's like I got my own little buddy army of Ryans out there that I can go and brainstorm with and engage. And that's part of what we're going to talk about here of lowering kind of your apprehension about AI, is if you change the way you view it and perceive it, it becomes less scary, but also it changes the way you interact with it. So as we go through this today, forgive me if it's all over the place. This is my first run on this flow. Elliot, thanks for chiming in. Logan, Utah, excellent. And so I'm going to walk through, but this is the one core thing as we're going through this. Today's presentation is not from somebody who's selling you AI. Just understand, like, this isn't Ryan has a new AI product. I'm going to build something and integrate AI into it at some point, but that's not where I'm even at. Today's presentation is really like, let me show you how I would do your job if I was you, to save a bunch of time and energy. That doesn't mean you should go tell your boss to buy it. It definitely means you should buy it. And that right there is probably our first thing as we're getting into this. You know, I grew up in a house with a working mom. She was a school teacher. She got paid for her time at school. I also grew up with a dad who sold cars, and he had salary plus commission and then became straight commission. He owned his own used car lot. I had in my life these two concepts: value based off of the sale and value based off of time spent. The third one that opened up to me as I went against my mom's better wishes, quit my job as an accountant at an MLM company and took a job as an accountant at a tech company 20 something years ago, was suddenly it went from the third option. The first option being my mom gets paid for her time in the classroom. The second option being my dad gets paid a commission on his sales, which I didn't really love, that kind of thing. But the third option was getting paid for the value created. This idea that we can create value and we should be compensated based off of the value created, not based off of the time worked. Now, HR has always struggled with this because it's an hourly job, and because that hourly job doesn't drive revenue most of the time, it becomes a cost center. And because it's a cost center, we can sit there and complain and say, you should pay us more. We add more value here. It's really hard for HR to show the value that you're adding, because the value you're adding, we're going to take talent as a good example of this. The value you're adding to talent is as valuable as the sales manager's value he adds in managing his sales team and training them. It's just that it's indirect. It's one hop away. And because of that, it's hard. The farther, I like to tell my team this: if you want to make more money, get as close to where money transacts as possible and as big a transaction as possible. What do I mean by that? If you want to look at your organization and figure out who makes the most money, it most likely is a salesperson. The reason it most likely is a salesperson, and salespeople make the most money who close the biggest deals, is because of those two factors. I'm close to where money changes hands, and the amount of money changing hands is big. So when you think about HR, you're not any part in the value proposition of marketing and generating demand. You're not there in the proposition from delivering whatever we sold, like customer service is. You're not there in the creation area of product where you're building the asset, but you're also not like an accountant who's just counting up the math afterward. Nothing against accountants. I came from accounting world, but you're not just the accountant doing that part. The talent part, this talent engine weaves its way through everything that is the growth of our organization. In fact, I'm going to guess that 90% of employers would say we're having a hard time hiring right now. But hiring is what I used to talk about. That's not the only problem. Just because I can attract you applicants doesn't mean you can convince them to come work for you if your culture is bad. Just because you get them working for you doesn't mean that you have a good program to get them up to speed fast. Just because they're on your team doesn't mean that performance is managed very well. It doesn't mean that you have a performance system. In fact, the underlying tone of all this value created in an organization is the people underneath the hood that are doing it. And as the person who is over the talent engine, in most organizations, there's what should be a visionary and an integrator. In those two, right? Visionary and integrator. The visionary is the person who has the grand vision, can sell it to the team, and has the authority to make it happen. Think Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, if you go watch the Jobs movie, went back to Apple. He was the visionary in that aspect. He had the dream. He still needed Wozniak to build it. He needed the executor, the integrator, that doer part. But Steve Jobs' personality and passion was the driving force that propelled it forward. And that came along. So as you're looking at HR as a good example and building this talent engine, HR can't build it. You can't be the visionary of it. It doesn't mean you aren't visionary. It doesn't mean you can't have the vision of the talent engine. It means that you can't be the visionary in your organization for one simple reason. You don't have authority. And you shouldn't have authority because authority lies with the CEO. And so when we think about, we want to build this great talent engine. Today, I'm going to show you some easy hacks for your side to get it done easier, faster, better. But on the employer side, that CEO has to drive your talent. It has to drive the culture of your talent engine. If the engine of your talent, I'm going to show you in a slide here, is these 5 parts, right? People are jumping ship. I'll kind of get flowing into this a little bit here. Like hiring's hard. People are jumping ship. This number right here, 96% of employees are looking for a new job in 2023. Karina says, what about hiring for online jobs working from home? I love online jobs working from home. Most of my employees work from home. And we'll talk about that. But finding a work from home job on the job seeker side is the number one thing they're searching for right now. And the hardest thing they're having getting. Employers are bringing employees back to the office, while at the same time, more people than ever want to work from home, or more specifically, want the flexibility to choose where they work. That's really what we're defining here. And so what this means is that this year, the last part is there's a talent gap. And this is the talent gap. Whoa, that's funny. This gap is something I've measured in some of my previous webinars. This is the gap between total openings and unemployed people. Now, this doesn't mean that, hey, if these were equal, we'd be at full employment, because it doesn't take into account that this would have to be measured based on the skills and qualifications in that. Just because we have enough people unemployed for jobs doesn't mean they're all nuclear engineers or can code AI, right? And so, but the overall goal of this chart was to show employers that when I was talking at SHRM back in 2020 and 2019, everybody was complaining about a talent shortage. Then we had this big gap time when COVID, when people were laid off, and it brought back, and we crossed it back into the shortage realm. But right now, the size of this shape, the size of this gap as a percentage is 2 to 3 times worse than it was pre-COVID. Simply put, there is a shortage of talent. Now, I believe the world's going to massively, chaotically change and evolve over the next 5 years, and this chart may be meaningless after that. But as of today, and at least for this year, there is a shortage of talent, and it gets even worse when there's a shortage of talent that either A, fits the job. When we think about this gap, what this gap doesn't say is fits the job and wants the job. Okay. In order to hire somebody, we need to solve for these two things. And fit really says that they'll be able to do it in my terms, meaning it doesn't mean they can do it already. I might have a training program, but why I'm trying to balance fits and wants. They fit the job that comes from the employer. They want the job that comes from the employee. And so even though we already have this chasm right here of people that are wanted and people that are available, and effectively we're saying the talent gap. Sorry, some of you guys who work for me have seen this, Ryan. Those who haven't, this is what's called flow in motion, Ryan. This is I'm creating as we go. If you think about the gap when it comes to the talent world, this is what I'm saying right now. We have to build this bridge between the wants, how many people we want, between the fits, this is the job, and the talent. The job is based off of who managers say fit. And talent is based on the availability of it, of people who are willing to accept and do that job for what you pay in the way you're asking them to. This right here is a gap. This, when it's out of alignment, we have unhappiness. Let me give you a great example of that. If, as a lot of HR people struggle in their jobs, they're accidentally in HR anyway, because most of them didn't study HR, but they struggle with this grind of what my boss believes it takes is different than what it takes. What my boss is paying me and the value they perceive of me is different, this gap, right? I'm listening to all the complaints of all the employees all the time. I'm basically the psychologist of the organization. My boss doesn't know these things and he doesn't connect to them the same way. This gap, right? And the wider that gap is, the longer the bridges we have to build. And the higher it is, it becomes not a bridge, but a staircase, right? It gets harder and harder if the available talent is farther away, meaning this is what we'll call desires, meaning that gap gets bigger as we get farther and farther away from how people want you to work and how you want to work. It bridges the gap. This right here, the measurement here is the quantity, available people. And so what we're seeing right now, the difference between here and here, it isn't just that this got taller because there's fewer people like that. It's that what's actually happening is it's also getting wider because of the desire for a different type of experience at work. And this is led, or we'll not say led by HR. Let's say that you are the buffer and more maybe like the piece of sand getting ground in the oyster on this, because you're the one that's dealing with corporate America wanting people back in the office and employees wanting to work from home. You're the one that sits there in the middle. You hear complaints from both sides. You're here to balance it. You're here to make it work. And so today I'm going to explain how you can make that work in your organization. We'll have a different one about culture and how to do it, but like fundamentally on the strategy side. But today we're going to start with your first step on it. And the first step you have to realize is that one of the best bridges right here for me and my employees, the way that I bridged the gap between what my employees could do and what I needed done was tools. It was, and really it was strategy and tools, et cetera. And so today I'm going to show you a tool that you can use. Now, the weird thing is that for most employees, we think about tools the same way we think about tools in a mechanic shop. We think that if the employer needed us to use the tools, that they would provide them. Therefore, we aren't out looking for tools on our own to buy, and thought of buying tools on your own is outrageous. I had a discussion with two of my salespeople, Applicant Pro yesterday. I was training them on how to use AI, just like I'm going to do today. I'm like, look, you should just go buy this on your own. You shouldn't ask the company to pay for it, because just buy it already. Just do it. It's like $20 to $100 a month. These individuals make six figures. It's not like it's going to break the bank. This will save them more personal time than they could ever, but waiting for this tool to be given down is the number one mistake. Number two mistake is expecting them to pay for it. It becomes their idea. Trust me, you want more independence and more control and feel like you're in the driver's seat of your career, then you need to take that control of saying, I find my own tools. I learn my own tools. I engage them. And so today we're going to start with some self-empowering. And the reason is really quite simple, is that employers are starting to give up on this whole talent thing. And I know HR is hearing the negativity from the bosses about it. We can't find people. Kids these days don't want to work. People don't want to do this job, blah, 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 blah. It is out there. It probably is true. But more importantly, again, HR is sitting in the middle going, I can't fix it. I'm not a magician here. It's it's probably like a marriage counselor almost, but you have no power to solve either side. You can tell them what's wrong. You can point them in a direction, but at the end of the day, you have very little power to actually change it. In this instance today, I'm going to show you how to take the power back to solve this problem as an HR person. How you take the power back to truly get what you want, like a seat at the table or be taken seriously. This right here is it. This, what I'm going to outline in this series of webinars, this one plus the other, is this one point, right? They want to pay you peanuts for your skills. Excellent point, Karina. When you are experiencing, because they're paying you for time, your goal is to be paid for output, not for your skills, not for your experience. The employer is paying you, and this is what you need to keep in mind. The employer is not paying you for your skills. So as we get in this is a huge mind shift that employers have to make, that employees have to make, and HR has to make. You are not paying people for their skills. You're not paying them for their education. You're not paying them for where they worked before. An employer is paying you for you to do the job that needs done right now. You're getting paid a mix of how well you can do the job and how much the job is worth to the employer. So, Karina, to put this in context, while you may be extremely skilled, if your skills aren't being used for the employer to their highest value, you won't get paid the same for them. That's number one. Number two is, if the employer can't generate value from your skills at the highest amount, then they can't afford to pay you for them. I hope that makes sense. So you have two parts, like, are my skills creating value here in this company? And is the company generating value for my skills at a rate that makes sense? Let me give you a good example. Imagine you have two highly skilled salespeople. Now, instead of being paid by the hour, they're paid commission, because that's how sales works, which is the true I'm paid for result. This salesperson A, may be a better salesperson, but they have an inferior product and an inferior price point. Salesperson B is an inferior salesperson, but works at a company with a superior product at a superior price point. What the net result is an inferior employee is getting paid the same or potentially even more than a superior employee, because it's a value exchange between you and the boss and the consumer. And so, Karina, I agree, employers should pay more for some of those things, but as a personal kind of mentor to job seekers, my approach is that gives them the power over you, and that's not what we want. We want our power. And our power stays in the fact that, well, if we're worth $100,000 a year and this employer wants to pay me 50, I should go find an employer who believes I'm worth $100,000 a year, both because they believe it and because it's real. It's worth $100,000 a year to them, not just to you. And that's the shift of the first mental shift here. Employers are giving up because what they've been doing is innovating. We've been going along this spectrum of making just small changes and improvements. And the goal of this is what we call optimization. It's what you do during the time of the cycle when things are going kind of normal. When COVID hits and when this big talent disruption hits, this no longer is going to fix our problem. Our results are going down, take with hiring or talent or whatever the case may be, no matter what we throw at it. We throw money at it, we throw time at it, and it still just keeps coming down. It's not going up. And what this tells you is we have optimized it out. What it's really saying, the giving up, means that the money being put in to try to solve the problem isn't coming back as a return on investment. And at that point, we start to say, well, why would we do this? This is a losing game. Sound familiar? Well, that's where we're at. So when you reach this point, the only solution is a dramatic change in the equation, that you add something in here that dramatically changes the equation so it works differently. Let me give you the best example of this. NASA has a hard time taking us to space. They were flying something like 4 to 6 space shuttle missions per year up to space. It was insanely expensive. It was very expensive. Their ability to get value out of each shuttle mission was dependent on how valuable it was to go, minus how much it cost to get there. Therefore, it was hard to justify going to space more often. Along comes Elon Musk, You can think whatever you want about, I don't care, but this one thing shifted. And it wasn't that it's better when it's a business and profits available or whatever. It was this one core driver that is the part of profitable businesses. Businesses are driven to figure out a better way, a faster way, and a cheaper way, period. Better, faster, cheaper. We are driven to both do it as an optimization and as an innovation thing, big leaps and small leaps. And because of that, now we're going, SpaceX is launching one a week. And the reason is because A, there is more value in them going up there because the internet, they're lighting it up. And there's more value in space, the potential value is there, but B, because they brought down the cost of getting there. Those two parts, the value and the cost. As a business, we are designed to do that. And that's why Karina might feel like she's not getting paid the value for what she is. It could be that she isn't a threat to leave. And it could be that the employer doesn't get value from her skills that one of his competitors would. And we have a mismatch. With the space race, we had a mismatch. Elon comes along and SpaceX, but more specifically, the profit, the revenue motive and the profit motive. The revenue motive went up, the expense went down, therefore we're going into space a lot more. This is the same exact way to think about your job and your employees. We are no longer going to be able to move into the future by just making small tweaks to our employees. We are going to have to massively change what they do, how they do it. Let's take a coffee shop as a good example, and Starbucks is my favorite example of it. To deal with the labor shortage, since there isn't more labor and we can't just pay more, Starbucks has one secret weapon that Dutch Bros doesn't, and they don't even do the best job with it, and that is mobile ordering. It's like I have my own Starbucks employee that I paid. Starbucks didn't have to buy me this phone, yet it works as an employee for Starbucks that they can offload some of that labor to. What they need is employees at Starbucks that are more innovative and more able to jump the gap between mobile order and in-store. And that's not somebody who's optimizing, it's somebody who's innovating. This right here is how the Navy wins wars. They just wear you down. Let me just clean this up a little bit because there's a book on this one. Pirates in the Navy. This is how pirates win wars. Navies win war by having the biggest Navy there is, and just by wearing you down out of sheer attrition. We will sink all your boats before you sink all of our boats. Pirates win wars out of creativity and surprise. They're just scrappy, right? They're just scrappy people. And so that's how they win. They win, it seems, by getting lucky, but in actuality, it's because they have a different advantage. Pirates aren't at a disadvantage. They have a different advantage, and their advantage is that speed. And so as you're thinking about your culture and your organization, this is one of the biggest things. You're going to have to figure out how to not just be optimizing, but instead figure out how you're going to innovate massive shifts in ability and power and leverage. That's what your team needs. So what does this have to do with HR? Well, I can make a passion speech about that because I go first over the wall and I go to try to figure it out. But you may be looking at your organization and saying, I don't have the time to be the person driving forth massive innovation because I'm overwhelmed just doing my job. That's number one. Number two, I don't get the respect about innovation because HR is not viewed as innovative. Problem set number two. Number three, I might not be innovative because I don't want to be innovative. Maybe because my own internal interests are based off of risk, and innovation seems risky. All of those things could be the reason, and we can overcome them all by taking one simple step forward. And here's what it is. Number one, try stuff for yourself. Become a learner who plays with things, figures out, and tinkers. Today, I'm going to teach you how to tinker with AI. You want to not just use what I show you, but you want to tinker with it. You want to spend time, embrace this new skill. If you want to be as passionate about AI as I am and talk as confidently about it, it isn't just the knowledge, it's the time spent tinkering, my relationship with it. So that's number one, take the first step into it. Number two, be first over the wall. Most likely the rest of your organization may or may not be using AI right now to write content. If they are, it's only the innovative ones who are doing it. Therefore, step forward and be an innovator by using it yourself first. Show before you go. That's number three on credibility. If you want real credibility, prove it first for yourself. So in this instance, it would be using AI to cut your time in half. If you can do the same job in half the time, this will prove the efficiency of this approach. which then means you have a case study to go to the rest of your organization to say, hey, we need to look at not just efficiency, but actual effectiveness and innovate, not just adjust. Hey, I'd like to look at how AI can augment, or a tool or an app or something could augment my team's ability to produce more value than they are producing today, so that we can pay them more money or give them more flexibility. And so that's kind of my spill. So my backstory, I was an entrepreneur since I was like 7. I boxed up a bunch of worms from my mom's garden. It's actually kind of a funny story. My mom was a stay-at-home or a working mom who worked in this as a second grade teacher, had a big garden, and I would steal worms out of her garden to sell them. That was my first real business. But I started a company called Applicant Pro about 17 years ago. We scaled to $100 million in total revenue, 10,000 clients, 280 employees off of just my initial money. I paid one of my programmers $2,000 a month to work for me for 2 years. That was my investment in Applicant Pro. We scaled it on the backs of people who were not from the tech world, moms, working moms predominantly. We amplified their ability to output by giving them tools, by giving them training and tools and knowledge and frameworks so that they could hit above their weight class, so they could produce above the world's assumption of their potential, not above their potential in my eyes, but above the world's assumption. Our growth is purely because of taking a disadvantage and saying we just have a different advantage by being bootstrapped, by being who we are and how we're showing up. Our culture is a different advantage. It's not an advantage if Google used it, but it's a great advantage for us. I also, in the talent world, I speak at HR, but more importantly, over the last 2, almost 3 years now, Applicant Pro has been doing its own internal case study. Before I left, I'm no longer the CEO there, but we've been doing our own internal case study. What we were doing is, see, the folks at Applicant Pro have this really jerk boss who forces innovation by pulling back cost and forcing us to hit above our weight class. That's actually kind of like a core, unsaid core value. We fight from our backs just to prove we can. And so in this instance, over the last 3 years, we have increased not just our headcount. We're now at 280. We're now generating 500 applicants per hire. Just let that sink in. 500 applicants. We are currently generating 20 employee referrals per hire. This cost us no money. We didn't increase our spend on Indeed. It did cost us some money. Okay, we did increase our spend by I think it's maybe about $1,000 a month. We pay $250 for referrals, and we give away prizes for those who referred the most people. This right here is a great example of not optimization, but innovation inside of the talent. And it's an example of using tools to do things. It's also part of why I want you to keep in mind with AI. So as we jump into this, here's the part to keep in mind. This isn't the result of some tool that we built and it ran on its own. This is a result of tools we built that put in the hands of strategic, smart people made a huge impact. And that's the way to think about your relationship with AI. AI isn't coming to replace me. AI is coming as a tool for me to use. That's the way to get your head around it so it's not so scary. HR at its, especially in the next 5 to 10 years, is not going to replace HR. It's going to be a tool that HR can use to do 10 times or 100 times more, both in effectiveness and efficiency than they did before. But if you wait till you get asked to get that tool and you wait for your boss to give it to you and it's not your idea, you're not over the wall first, you're not out there playing with it and understanding it, you're not bringing ideas and showing examples to your team, then that is the people who will be replaced by AI. And not because AI was made to replace all of them, but because AI is most likely going to replace people who are not aggressively picking up new tools. Abundantly minded, scarcity minded individuals are the ones that actually will be replaced by it. So in this instance, this was a bunch of tools. None of them used AI, but they were still web tools that we use to drive our employees to share jobs, to drive our culture forward. Is about the culture times our tools times great leadership. So in order to grow your business, you need to build this talent engine. And we're going to talk about all 5 parts of this. Clearly, I'm used to talking about attraction. That's what we do at Applicant Pro, is generating applicant flow. 10,000 employers use our platform, but you may not know this. I also drive job seekers from a little company called Refer. Refer has sent 1.6 billion emails to job seekers in the last 6 years. 1.6 billion. Can I say that again? We sent 100 this month. We will cross 100 million emails in 1 month with a 48% open rate to job seekers. So I know a little bit about attracting candidates, but the story of how both of those companies have grown has to do with the rest of the wheel. The idea of how do we actually take a brand new person who hasn't done the job before and activate them, get them up to as good as everybody else, regardless of their starting point. How do we amplify using tools and process and frameworks and plays? How do we amplify the ability of our team to hit above their weight, to perform even more than we assume? This right here would be, I want you to perform up to your potential. I just happen to have a higher potential belief than maybe a lot of my employees when they started working for me. This amplify down here is to say, I want you to actually perform above even what I thought you could do. I thought you could do here, and this is the result, because my brain just doesn't work that big, that you're manifesting so much amazingness at work that it just boggles my mind. Today, some of the AI stuff, I wrote a book last night in 2 hours while I was in the oxygen chamber. Like, I'm going to show you some stuff that gives me a tool I can swing. This advancement right here, using, again, tools and training, but more giving career maps. Can you actually show them the map, whether they stay with you or not, whether they go and work for somebody else or stay with you? Either way, that each individual has a career path, not inside your org, in their life. And this final one, which is the amplifier, when you do this right, you get massive loyalty and advocacy. We have an insanely low turnover rate at Applicant Pro, and the people who do leave, like, I'm still happy for. I hope they got more money and better pay and a better place to work, and that they're learning new cool things. Like, that spins this wheel back around. So today we're going to talk about what our options are. In the talent engine world, our options are: we can buy talent, we can grow. We'll call this, instead of grow, I want to call this gather. We're hunters, we're gatherers, and we're farmers. So just think about this for a minute and what this really means in the real sense of the concept. Hunters go out and they live off the land. They go live off by taking the life of an animal. I'm not anti or pro hunting. I don't care. I'm just making this analogy, okay? So that's what hunters do. They're out hunting for food. They're taking life from the earth. Now, luckily, the animals reproduce and it's here for our use, and et cetera, et cetera. Hunters, gatherers. Gatherers are taking the fruit off the trees, right? They're gathering the food that they can find that grew wild in nature. Both of those two are existing off of the existing availability. When there's a drought, they both starve. When there's a feast, they both do good. When there's lots of extra food, like there's all kinds of relationships there. But the one out here, the farmer, is the interesting one. It's somebody who believes that they're not claiming a part of the value available. They're not claiming a part of the available talent out there in the world. They're actually able to grow their own. They're able to take the talent that maybe people didn't want as much or value as much and turn it into high value talent. And that right there is the entire goal of what we're going to flow through today and on all the other presentations you hear me make. If you can get to that point where you're like, okay, I get it. As a company that's an underdog, which most of us are, a smaller company, I am working against the odds. Therefore, instead of feeling a disadvantage, I need to find a different advantage to use. As an individual in HR, you may feel that you're not getting paid what you're worth. And you may feel like you don't have the tools and ability and the skills that would make you be able to make the impact you want to make. That is you saying you're at a disadvantage. Instead, we want to say, no, we're going to take it on ourselves to turn that into a different advantage. We're going to do the job in a different way. And by changing how we do it, it gives us an advantage. And then that goes all the way into talent in the same way. If you're doing that yourself as an HR person, if you as a business manager, owner, whoever it is, if you are yourself working on yourself, it will set the example and give you the power, confidence, and context to show the rest of your company how to use these things in this way. And that right there kind of is all encapsulating of growing it. So we're going to walk through how to use the talent engine and how to build it. But here's the number one thing I learned in 20 years in HR, 20 years of selling, hiring, and recruiting platforms to HR people. I learned one pure piece of knowledge, and that is that content quality is vital, and content quality is completely and utterly not thought about. That is the biggest difference between companies that recruit well and those that don't. It's the biggest difference between companies that hire well and those that don't. It's the biggest difference between companies that have high-performing employees and those that don't. It's not just an equation of they got great people, the talent. It's an equation of they got the right people, they created great content to pass that knowledge over, and they had a systematized way to make sure it happened. Those are the three parts of creating a successful workforce. And in the HR world and the business at large, we just believe if we get good talent, the rest will happen. That's where most of our money is spent. We believe if we don't get somebody from the best school, we're starting at a disadvantage, so we can't make up for it with the other three parts. But the fact is, if it's an equation where all three are equal, just because your competitor gets the best talent, you can outdo them with different talent by leveling up your ability to train and get people context in a systemized way. Increase the quality of your content and increase the consistency of delivery. So today we're going to talk about quality content. You see, throughout the entire process in HR, I bet you spend a lot of time writing content, whether it's typing content, whatever the case may be. In fact, I want everybody who's on the call right now, even Steven Smith, to take and tell me one thing that this week or last week you did that had to do with you opening up a blank email or a blank Word doc where you wrote more than 500 words. What was it? Was it a job ad? Was it a job description? Was it a rejection letter? Was it an offer letter where you wrote more than 500 words? You individually. And you could also include in there, okay, and you got to put this in the questions because I think the chat still isn't working. Because, yeah. And so you got to go into the Q&A and open a question with your thing. Anyway, but just think about that. It could be a job ad, could be a job description, could be an offer letter, rejection letter, it could be a sequence of follow-up emails during the hiring process. It could be your employee manual. It could be an NDA. It could be anything. It could be a performance review. It could be putting together a deck and outlining a presentation you want to make to the team. It could be putting together your core values and typing them up. It could be any of those things. Most likely, there is the strategic part of it, and there is the content part, and then there's the distribution. Now, what we think our job is when we're getting paid is our strategy, what we know, our idea, plus our work, our effort, plus the actual end result, the output. That's what our value is, which is true. But we put way too much emphasis on our work. It's almost like overwork is a badge of courage. It is in my world in the tech space. I work long hours because I'm just driven to, but it can come across as I'm saying you need to be up at 5 a.m., which I wasn't. And so, but that idea, but in HR, we put a lot more value over our work than over our ideas and strategy, and then over the results. There's a reason for that. We're putting our value in our work because it's what we can control. We can't always control the strategy because we need our bosses bought in order to make it effective. And so we don't put as much as there, not because we don't think we're strategic, although a lot of us may say, hey, strategy and ideas and creativity aren't my thing. But even if it is, you're withheld from it because you can't force change. It needs to be pulled up from the top. The second thing is over here on the output is the same thing. Most HR people don't take credit for their output because most of the time it isn't just them that did it. So that would be wrong to take credit for it. But also it's not just them that made it fail. Training programs would be a great example of that. If you run a training program, it's not just your fault if it fails or doesn't fail, because the simple fact is you weren't there just for the implementation. But because of that, we overemphasize this and we say, but I believe what AI and what I'm going to teach you today can actually do something very different. I think it can bring down how long it takes us to create a lot of value and to see the result. I believe that AI can make you more strategic, more powerful, more able to put forth ideas and get the credibility you need to get them done, more able to get buy-in on those things. But also, can make you able to show that you therefore are generating more results for the hour worked, which is the only way to truly take the power of figuring out how to make more in HR. It isn't waiting, calling your congressman or waiting for a bill to pass. It's taking that power. Here's how we measure our success when it comes to this stuff. All 4 parts: better, faster, cheaper, easier. That's what our goal is. Better, we want higher quality. We want all of these at the same time too. Just keep that in mind. I could give you tons of quality if I didn't care how much it was. I could give you tons of quality. And this is the way to think about NASA versus SpaceX. Elon said he wanted all of these to work, all at the same time. NASA was saying, well, if you want better, then it will cost you more. You can't have cheaper. If you want better, you can't have faster. But if we go fast, we're going to break stuff. And so the goal isn't to say you can have it all, but that you're trying to find the right balance between these 4. At the end of the day, I'm going to teach you how to find this balance in your work. A better, faster, cheaper, easier. I'm going to show you how to find the balance between what you feel your part of the result is, your actual effort, and what you believe the potential is, meaning your ideas and strategy. Those 3 parts, what we want to do is we want to instead show that we can make this one really high, our ability to drive results really high, in comparison to our effort, not because we're lazy, but because we're more efficient. I actually had this shirt printed. This is a different shirt. This is my new Refer shirt. My old shirt I had printed said, "I'm not rude, I'm just efficient." And so this is our goal, is to be down here where per every dollar spent, meaning for every minute of time you spend, we'll go with minute instead. For every hour you spend, you have more potential and more ability to show the result. That you drove the result, that you could take not just credit because you need to take credit, but that you influence. So this would be your influence, and this is like your idea, okay? So I'm going to walk through some content today, and I'm going to show you some examples, but as we start looking at using AI to write content, you've got to get one thing clear, and that is, I'm not envisioning this to do it for you or to take your place. I'm not suggesting you can buy a tool that does it for you. And that is one of the reasons why AI companies are having slow adoption in the HR space. When you come to your buyer and tell them that the tool you're bringing will replace them, it makes them not buy. It's really simple. It makes you not buy. Instead, I'm going to show you today how to use AI as a tool in your hands to do more, create more value, more impact for less effort. And as that tool in a competent, smart person's hands, it becomes more powerful than just AI. In fact, if you think about it, that's what we're going to talk about today. The output of AI is a mix of your knowledge, your context, your ability to use it, and the AI. Now, the AI companies can make their AI better, but not if your context and how you used it is off. In order to get to awesomeness, we need our context, the way we're engaging with AI, and the power of the AI to all be at tens. And so I'm going to show you that requires a human, not just a human to program it, but a human meaning you. So when it comes to creating AI content, I want to show you, and we're going to talk about ChatGPT today. I wanted to show you Jasper, but I haven't spent enough time in it. I will, but I'm also going to Mexico next week to build an extension that integrates with ChatGPT. So we'll start with ChatGPT. ChatGPT in its current realm is meant for people who like to tinker and play and figure things out. It's not meant to do it for you. But when we hear about ChatGPT, you're going to hear a lot about this one right here, the prompt. The prompt, a good way to put this is my request. That's all a prompt is. I'm requesting for AI to do something. That's what the prompt is. And with ChatGPT being so hot right now, everywhere online, you can buy a whole list of prompts. And the prompt, once again, you have, if you split up the value of it, it was how good is the AI, how good is the prompt, and how good is the context. These things add up to the value of the output from AI. So what you see right now is most people saying, hey, our AI is okay or better, buy some better prompts, and that's where they're starting. But right here, in my belief, and it will always be my belief, is where you can make the biggest impact on using AI today, meaning getting great results from a weaker technology, where you leverage it to amplify your output, and where you stay in the game, where you're over the fence first to figure out how this technology could be used in your organization. This right here, we could just say is preparedness. You see, the prompt is the action. Preparedness is how prepared you were to take the action, and this gives us the output. If we do bad preparedness, then we're going to have a better prompt to get to just a mediocre thing, right? But what we want is better context. So it's these 7 steps. I'm going to walk you through it really quick here, and we'll kind of talk through. Before we get into the AI, you have to mentally think about what this is. Number one, we're going to be having a conversation. And in order to have a conversation, you have this little AI person over here, this chat bot, whatever you want to call it, chat GPT, and you have me. And I need to view this person as an employee. I just need to. I have a relationship with it, okay? You can go watch the movie Her. It's not that kind of relationship, but I need to think about it as something I have a relationship to, because the more you treat this AI thing like it's a human, the better it gets at actually doing stuff and working as your partner. So this is my partnership between it. Now, let's start with that right there and assume that you have a partner. You want to come and ask it to do something for you, but you're going to give it no context, no backstory. I can tell you, if people who work with me or people around me, the most triggering thing in my life is somebody who asks a question with no context and then waits a long time to give me the context where I have to pull it from them asking questions. It is the number one way to trigger me. If you ever run into me, you want to trigger me, ask me a random ass question with no context behind it and expect me to give you an answer and then expect to just move on. You want to make it even worse, just move on. Decide, no, never mind. Because my brain is fired up and going and it needs context to chew. And so when I think about it that way, it makes it easier to say, I'm going to get garbage out of AI if I put garbage into it. Just like, and the better thing would be not garbage. Here's the way to think about it. If I put randomness into it, I'm going to get randomness out of it. It could be good, it could be bad, but it's going to be random. If you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. The same way with an employee. If I took all my new hires, just threw them on a computer, gave them a computer, some of them would figure it out and some of them wouldn't. My results would be random. My goal of training them is giving them context so that I'm more likely to get estimated, predictable results. Same thing happens with AI. If you want predictable results coming from your new buddy, your new AI buddy, then you have to give it context. You have to make those deposits. And so when we think about the context, that comes from me. It is a deposit in this relationship that's going to equal my results. If you want amazing, if you want to score 100% on the results, you're going to have to make your deposit, and it's the context. So here's what that context means. It's outline and interview. It really comes down to these two things of saying, before I start, I got to decide what it is I'm going to do. This, I start with who am I? Who am I? And what am I working on? Right? And the last one is who. So those are the three first parts of outline. Before I start using AI, I make an outline. I literally actually use Otter to do it. You can download the Otter app. It's another piece of AI technology. And so today I'll show you the Otter app. This right here, superpower. This allows you to take and convert audio to text. It's a piece of AI. Here's what it does for me at Applicant Pro. I'm a talker, not a writer, but I write a lot of content. Not true. I talk a lot of content that gets cleaned up, ran through Otter, edited, and produced. I do not actually type often at all. I talk, I'm typing back and forth like I'm chatting, but I do not sit down and write a book. I talk it. I talk all of our content into existence. I talk our products into existence because that's how I communicate. Otter allows me to hit record and record our conversation here. I click new recording. And so now as I talk, I'm going to get it here so you can see it. Now as I talk, it's going to type everything out. I can invite it to meetings. I can have it sign into my Zoom meeting and record and take notes for me. This is an amazing piece of AI. The idea that you would ever have a meeting with somebody that's not recorded and transcribed is insane. You should not be having any non-recorded meetings. So this is our first part of AI that we learn as we're outlining is Otter, Otter.ai. phenomenal product. I don't know if I have an affiliate program with them, but I should. Otter.io, amazing voice to text product. It is super powerful. What it allows me to do is to get my words into actual text that I can use because I've got it right here. What I want to outline by hitting record, especially if you're like me, is I want to outline the backstory. I'm trying to train this AI employee to do a task for me. And I might come back and have them do other tasks in the future, but I need to give them the backstory, the context. And so my backstory is, hey, my name's Ryan Kohler. I'm the founder of Refer. I help job seekers get jobs. We run an online job board. It's what we do. Here's how we do it. I work on things like marketing and sales and product, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's that outline of who I am, then leads me to, and this is what I need to do. I want to work on this certain thing. I'm about ready to work on a project. Cool. That leads me to my next question, which is who? Who has the knowledge I need? Now, a lot of times that who would be me. And so that's who I'm going to interview. I'm going to interview myself, right? If I don't have the knowledge, though, if it's for a job ad, then the manager is the person with the knowledge. So I'm going to interview them. We just went from this being just me talking this into existence to me plus question mark. This magical person that has the context I need. It could be a customer, a prospect, a boss, an employer. It could be anybody. I need to interview them and ask them questions so I can pull from them the context. That interview might also be going and finding an article, asking the internet. I'll show you how I use AI to pull this kind of data and stuff in a second here. This is super powerful stuff, but I need to interview someone to gather this knowledge back. Okay, so that's the first part. This is one of the things that almost nobody does right now. What this might look like to me is recording a 5-minute otter and doing 10 minutes of research and grabbing some articles so that I have some stats and sketching out the framework I'm going to teach into some type of framework just to give me, whether it's a Venn diagram or whatever, to give me the names of stuff so I can inject my own personality into it. That's what my goal is. I'm going to outline an interview. Who has that knowledge? Like I said, it could be anybody. Generally, it's the person asking me to do something. My boss asked me to do something. He probably has the context. I need to ask him a series of questions. I need to record that series of questions so I never have to ask it again. I need to convert it to text so I can use it. Your boss asks you to do something, say, hang on a second, let me record this so that we got it. I'm going to convert this to text. Tell them that when you're recording. It's just going to be converted to text. That's less weird than their name, than their audio being recorded. Say, I just need to record this so we can convert it to text. Otter's going to sign into our Zoom meeting and record it, so I can go grab that recording. From this point on, you should have Otter Assistant in all of your Zoom meetings, recording all that so you can go back and take a note. You might also get better at saying, take a note of this. There's other AI that you can have where you actually, they are there. Hi, my name's Emily. And you can say, hey, Emily, take a note of this. Take a clip of that. That's the second type of AI you could use in these meetings. Go find the source of the knowledge. You don't have to know it all. In fact, you're never going to know it all. But go find the source of knowledge wherever they are and interview them. Interview them in a very structured way so that you get back structured information. Who are you? What do you do? How do you fit in the customer journey? How do you fit in the employee journey? Where our project is doing X. Let me outline the project. What part do you play in the project? What knowledge do you have about it? What experience have you had with it? What do you think about it? What does success look like? What does failure look like? That recording right there from Zoom gives me the background story from a bunch of different people. So I could use Zoom, put it into Content Fries. Content Fries basically just takes a video and cuts it up. I believe that there's an Emily assistant. I want to say that's an AI assistant where she's on your meetings and you could say, hey, Emily, take a note. I know that we talked to somebody the other day that has some AI like that. But there's also Otter that can call right directly into your calls. The key is that we're getting information into text. It may not be perfect. It gets better, but we're getting knowledge, talking into clips, into text. Really what we're trying to accomplish here. This is insanely powerful. If you will stop right now, the next time somebody asks you for something and open up your Otter app and just say, hey, I want to record this so I have notes of it. Then you're no longer writing things. You're focused on them. You're not focused on collecting it and remembering it. You're focused on them. Take your focus off the paper, off the phone, set it there and say, let's have a conversation. I need to interview you to pull your knowledge and what you want from this. I know it's going to take 5 minutes, but this ensures that you get what you want out of the results in the end. I'm then going to interview that person. If it was a task that somebody's giving me, I'm going to say, okay, great. Let me interview you really quick. Now, give me a name for the overall vision of what you need me to do. That's number one. Number two, give me the why. Why is it that we're doing this? What is the driver of it? What initiated this situation? Number three, tell me the process. Walk me through the process of the handoffs. Most likely you're dealing with a handoff between two teams where there's friction. Walk me through the process and where this project fits in it. Next, can you give me, are there any specific steps that you think I should take? Well, this, and this. Awesome. That's cool. Next one is what tools should I use? Are there tools? Is there data stored somewhere, information stored somewhere, video stored somewhere? What tools, either ours or not, that I could use for it? And then the last two parts, what does success look like and what does failure look like? What do it look like if this was successful when it's done? What does the output? How do I measure it? How do I know? And what would failure look like? Now, that recording right there is so insanely valuable for every single project that if that's all you walked away from today was that, I should record them and put them on my phone and go listen to them later. It will change your life. But when you get in that habit of that flow, and I'll have to go back, use Otter to pull out those questions and rewrite it for you so you have the framework for it. It also will massively change the respect that people have for you. You will have to nail down this one core part, and it's when you're getting into the interview. We think that, hey, I'm sorry, I'm asking you a question, that when somebody asks us to do something, we should know what to do and go do it right then. And if we have a question, it's our ask that we're taking from them. That's not true. If somebody asks you to do something, it's because they're invested in the output of it getting done. So I start every single conversation. Here's how I start. Okay, that's awesome. I just need to know one thing right off the bat. How important is this project? And I'm wanting that answer for two core reasons. Reason number one is I want to know if it's important to them. I want them to say it out loud. This is a vital project. Awesome. Number two, how does this compare to what these other three things that I'm currently working on? Where does it fit in the stack? There's two reasons that I get that knowledge from them. Number one, I want them to say it out loud that this is vital to them. Number two, I want them to say out loud that it's more important than the other things they gave me, so I have prioritization. But the most important thing is then I can make this pivot to get in the interview. All right, so if this is that vital, and it's vital that we get it done right the first time as quickly as possible, it's not just about the hours it takes, but how many days it takes to get this done, then I need you to invest 5 minutes really quick and let me interview you, or 10 minutes and interview you about it really quick. Are you ready for that? Let me pull out my interview card and ask you the questions. What's the name of the project? What is the goal of the project? What are the steps in the process? Who impacts it? Who influences it? Who hands off to it? What is your idea behind it? What do you think the main steps are that we need to take, the main parts, the main challenges we're overcoming? What does success look like? When do you want it by? What does success look like? And what does failure look like? How will we measure it? And if you can just do that one thing, you've now gathered more knowledge and information and context about what you're doing that stops the round trip. The fact that you recorded it says, I only have to ask these questions once. It gets them to invest in doing it, going, oh, this is going to be recorded and transcribed. Well, then I'll be more talky here, which is what you want. You want them to talk more. You want them to give you more value in it. And then finally, you end with, now I've got this deliverable. Now, if you want to circle or close that loop to really make sure you're on the same page, I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. And so I want to use AI as my helper at this point. So I'm actually going to test this out. And this is, if you'll bear with me and hang out for a bit, I promise you I will make this worth your while. But I'm going to switch over and share my screen, and we're going to jump into ChatGPT here. Hopefully we got it open and working the right way, and we've got the right version of it. We do not, so I got to jump over into here. This is chat.openai. I do have a pro account. I do think you should upgrade to it. I'm sorry, it's $20. They're not paying me for that, but you should definitely upgrade. It'll also give you the ability to use the API when we roll out our tools. Second thing I install here is this web chat GBT extension. It's very, very worth it. I don't think it costs money, although there might be an upgrade or something, and I'll show you that later. And then the last thing, I'm going to jump into Otter. You want to get an Otter account. There are other versions of this out there in the world, whatever, but I'm going to show you And I think we might actually go over. So if you can't stick around, it's totally okay. I appreciate you can leave if you want. I'll get you the recording, but I really want to take the time to get this out of my head. So today we're going to walk through that flow. These two apps are my core apps. I might also use the notepad. You'll see me jumping back and forth between the notepad or Jasper that you can see hanging out down here, which is another AI assistant. But I'm going to actually show you how to go about doing something and the real power of AI in something that you can do to change your life today. So get an Otter login, otter.ai, install it on your phone and on the computer. That's number one. Number two, get a chat.openai login so that you have both of those. And now we're going to use this. So I know our chat isn't working right. And so we'll do this again, but I would love for somebody to be able to give me a project to do. But for now, I'm going to just take a project on my own. I'm going to show you from beginning to end exactly how I go about using AI to do something in HR. In this instance, I'm going to use it to write a job ad. And I'll tell you why, because I need to hire somebody. So this sounds like a great way to start. Ryan needs to hire somebody. And it's a really weird job. And so I'm going to use it for that entire flow and show you how. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Otter. If in this instance, I'm sorry, but I have two personalities. Ryan, the busy entrepreneur, is going to be interviewed by Ryan, the guy that is going to write job ads and content for them, right? This boss just came to me and brought me a project. So the first thing I do is, as the interviewer, I'm going to turn on Otter. I just hit it here. I also use, I don't think I have it in here. I have a mic I use sometimes. And so that will give you better pickup. I could show you the mic to buy. It's super valuable. It's a directional mic on your iPhone. And so I just fired up Otter. Now, what I'm going to do now is interview this person. So I'm going to say, Ryan, it sounds like you want to hire a bookkeeping kind of executive assistant hybrid job. Does that sound about right? Yeah, that's probably the way to think about it. Hey, let's talk about what is your overall mission of this job? Like at the end of the day, if we hire a great person and they do a great job, what will it do for you? How will your life be changed or better because of it? Oh, or how will our customers' life be better? In this instance, I'm a busy entrepreneur. I need somebody to become my personal bookkeeper, not my business bookkeeper, but my personal bookkeeper. I need them to go through all my credit card receipts, all my bank statements. I need them to find all those things all that SaaS I'm paying for that I'm not using and cancel it. I need somebody to do that for me because I don't have time to, I don't love doing it. And honestly, I shouldn't be doing it. That's the kind of bookkeeper I need. My life would be amazingly better if I had that person. Okay, cool. So what would that person look like? Do you know somebody who would be a good example of that job, Ryan? Oh, well, yeah, you know what? I like so-and-so, right? That person in my life, she's extremely organized. She's great on a computer. She's aggressive at getting these things taken care of. I give her little information. She figures it out. It's like she can read my mind, but she's techie enough to also be able to go figure stuff out on her own. That person is who I want to clone. I want somebody who loves the variation, loves the chaos, loves organizing chaos enough, but isn't so tied up on organizing it that we're going to fight and spend hours over pennies. That's the person I want. Now, if this person comes to work for me, I will love it because they will make this thing so much easier. Our customers will love it because they'll serve them in this way. They will make my life better because I won't have to worry about the money. I'll have to worry about getting money in the bank, but I won't have to worry about taking care of it, tracking it, that. They'll give me a report. I'll know where it's at, and that's how they'll make my life better. Every Monday, once a month, they'll give me a report. They'll ask me questions about what charges there are. They'll clean them up. They'll show me the money they're saving me by working for me. Therefore, they'll justify that they work here. For them, they will love this job. Why? Well, they'll love this job because the chaos and how I am makes it flexible. They can work from home. They can, do whatever. They can work in their home office. They can work on the beach. There will be some times that I need them to go do things locally, like talk to the bank, but there's a good chance they could be anywhere. So they're going to get the value of this being a super flexible job. I'm going to get the value of them being organized enough to make organized chaos without taking away my ability to be creative. And that's what the job's going to be on. Cool. Well, tell me about what it's like to work in this company. What's the environment like? Now, in this instance, it's a small business. So it'll be like you're working for a founder. You're going to have direct conversation with the CEO. Our values are humble, hungry, and smart. And, we pay for house cleaning and et cetera, but understand you are this personal assistant. You're not part of the company. That said, we are all about growing talent from within. So it's possible that starting as my assistant could lead you to something else inside of one of the companies. So it is a way to learn and glean and grow. Awesome. And I'm going to keep asking those questions. All right. So what is the process of getting there? In the instance of a job ad, it might be like, so tell me about that person. What makes them good at their job? Tell me about where they came from. What were they doing before? Tell me what things they learned when on the job. So you might say, well, the perfect bookkeeper, has done it before. They have some QuickBooks experience. They definitely have done more than just their own personal finance, because they need to have the context of weird business transactions. But they can learn that as they go if they're really good at doing research and figuring things out. So they should have a knack for business or a desire to learn about not just the personal side of finance, but the business side of finance, because it's part of my life, right? And so I'm just going back and forth and saying, but they could learn those things on the job. Okay, cool. They're going to learn on the job. What things will they have to know in the first 30 days to be great? What things will they have to know in the first 90 days to be awesome? What things will they have to learn in the first year? They could have it today or not. Well, they'll probably have to use Zoom. They'll have to learn to use Otter and AI, because I do. They'll have to learn to go through my mess and clean it up. They'll have to learn Excel, most likely, even if they use QuickBooks, because we do a lot of that kind of stuff. They might have to learn some reporting tools. They're going to have to make sure they learn to be self-driven, because I'm not a driver like that, etc. And so I'm just interviewing myself back and forth. What does the job pay? You know what? I mean, it'd be worth a lot to me to have it. I know I'm going to pay more per hour because that won't be as many hours. I'm guessing I'm going to pay $20 or $30 an hour. The work environment will be, I'm assuming they use their own computer. Whatever the case may be, right? So I just documented out this back and forth interview. Now I might say, how will we know what success looks like? Well, success looks like you getting me 10 applicants that all fit these 5 criteria, that are a good fit for the job, that are creative and flexible, that are organized and yet flexible, like that has some QuickBooks experience, that's just like assertive to the point that they'll ask for stuff instead of waiting me to ask. That would be a win if I get 5 or 10 of those applicants, because clearly I want to hire one. A loss would be if we hire the wrong person who's quiet, who doesn't ask things, who isn't driven, who fights with me over them wanting to organize things a certain way. They can't deal with the balance of chaos and organization. That's what failure would look like. Okay, but if I was looking at their resume, what would it look like? Oh, well, if I was looking at their resume, it would look like Sally's resume. Okay, so did she go to college? No. Did she? Yes. What degree did she get? What jobs was she doing before she came here? That's what they'll look like. Now, this right here just took me 10 minutes to have with myself, is the most valuable thing that anybody could ever create for this job. And so now I'm going to show you, if I come in here, and it's going to take a second process in Otter, is going to actually take and start processing my note. So here it is. Otter's processing my note as we go here. It's converting that entire conversation into text for me, right? So I have a recording of it. And so I could just go ahead and come in here and grab it whenever I want. Sorry, I got to clean up my screen just a little bit. And so let's say that I go ahead and I take this. I hope that you guys can see my screen, because that would be sad if you didn't. And I've got to switch my power cord real quick. If I wasn't recording my screen, I'm literally going to cry. Oh my gosh, I wasn't. Okay, so here we go. So I just talked through all that stuff. Here's Otter. I logged into Otter on the computer. And here we go. On the computer, my conversation is now coming in, and I could just go ahead and label this like job interview, book part-time bookkeeper. All right. So this was the interview I did with the manager about the part. Whoa, stop playing. So now I can take this and I'll go ahead and export all of the text here. I'm just going to I'll export all the text just to get it, down and dirty out on my thing here. You can see it. This is the text of what I just recorded. Clearly, I didn't start for a minute. And so I'll go through and clean it up and say, here we go. So this is all of the context I just recorded. So I want to clean this up and summarize it. So I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT and I'm going to fire up my person here. I'm going to say, hey, can my name Name, oh my goodness, name is Johnny. And I was just asked by my boss, Ryan, to help him hire a bookkeeper / exec assistant to do his personal bookkeeping. Can you help me? You see, I'm starting this off like it's a chat. That's why they're having it come back, right? Hey, Johnny, it's good to meet you. Here's the things you need to do before we do that. So it's responding back to me now, right? It's talking back to me about what's going on. And so I'm just going to keep going with this. And so you have to be careful. You don't want to start too early, but you're like, can I give you the backstory? I just interviewed Ryan and gathered information about what he is. Here is the transcript. Now, back over here, I have my transcript. I'm just going to paste it in. Now, sometimes it gets too long, and so you may have to cut up your transcripts. But here you go. This just pulled back the transcript. Now, here's what I could do with this information. I could use this to actually, can you create and here's what's crazy. So I haven't actually used ChatGPT in this way before. So here you go. We're going to full send this stuff. I could use this and say, cool, can you create me a job description based on this job being a part-time personal bookkeeper / executive assistant. And I'm going to hit go. And guess what it's going to do? It's going to create me a job description. Now, this is not the ad, but it is a description. And it just got me. Now, I could load in a copy of our other job descriptions. I could say, here's my template, follow my template. I could do that. But this is just me going on the fly. Now, giving it the template, giving it one of your previous ones, that would be feeding it context, right? So again, context, prompt, result. So I'm using good prompts here, and I'm literally actually going to stay on this call and record it for 2 hours. So if you want to stick around, stick around. Trust me, it'll be worth it. If not, you can bail out and I'll catch up with you. You're only seeing my iPad. Steve, can you see my thing right now? Let me give into Zoom, because if not, I'm going to cry. Oh my gosh. Oh, here we go. Sorry, Steve. So I'm just going to backtrack on this so that we can clean it up. And so let me show you what I did. So I went into Otter. Here was Otter. I renamed this conversation. So if I go to my conversations in Otter, here's my HR job interview for part-time bookkeeper. I came in here and I downloaded it. I used export and exported the text. That got it to me in my notepad right here. So I got in my notepad. Then I opened up ChatGPT and I started a conversation. I pressed new chat. You can see it's labeled right here. And I said, hey, my name's Johnny, because I've been thinking about changing my name to Johnny Utah. My name's Johnny, and I was just asked by my boss, Ryan, to help him hire a bookkeeper, executive assistant, do his personal bookkeeping. Can you help me? Right? Now, it went ahead and flowed this out. So then I said, can I give you a backstory? I just interviewed Ryan and gathered information about what he's looking for. Here's a transcript, and I pasted this in. It came back, the green one. Now you can change this to light mode if it's easier for you to read this way. My son, the gamer, would say that would make me old if I change light mode. I should definitely be in dark mode. So we're running dark mode today. Over here, all the conversations I've had with ChatGPT, it's a lot. So it came back with this information. So then I said, great, can you create me a job description based on this job being a part-time personal bookkeeper, executive assistant? And look what it did for me. It wrote my job description. Now at this point, I could use a prompt that's something like, can you reformat this to match our corporate job description framework or outline? Here it is. And if I pasted in your corporate one, it would follow that outline. It would rewrite the whole entire thing. It's going to choke because I don't have it. And so it's just going to say, yeah, I totally could do that. But if I'd actually pasted it in, it would have rewritten the whole entire thing. Steve, can you see it now? Sure. Siri wants to chime in because she thinks she can. I'm just going to check my Zoom right over here. Yep, we can. Perfect. So you see how much time I just literally saved you just now at getting to a job description? Now, I can continue to go from here. I could say, can you make a list of screening criteria? Now, I can literally use this as my assistant, and my Applicant Pro team will hate me for showing this, but I could just turn you into having Ryan, me, helping you with your job. And that's really what's involved here. Now, the more I feed it, this currently is going to say, sure, here's the things we're looking for. I could jump over and say, can you write me a funny and compelling job ad for this job? And now it's going to bring back and give me a funny job ad. I could change the tone to say, make it witty. I could change the tone to like, make it more professional, right? And so it just literally wrote me up this job ad. Now, I don't just use this as my job ad, just so you know, but this is usually the best way to do it. I could do, can you write the intro like Snoop Dogg wrote it? And it could do that. It could make my intro however I want. And so that's an outrageous request, but I could also like write it as a professional lawyer would write it. So you see what's happening here is this ability to me massage what I want, because as the human, I can read this and I know the output I want. I understand what I'm looking for. And when I have it right, I could, write this as if Shakespeare wrote it. Now, honestly, if that gives you a way in part of the talent engine, we'll talk about creating your culture, and we'll talk about creating your character diamond. And if your character diamond is we're like Snoop Dogg, or whatever the case may be, that character diamond gives us the voice to use in the AI. My current character diamond is, so I go from now on, use an irreverent but compelling and a little joking, sarcastic tone that we call, hey, Ryan. So now we're going to use the hey, Ryan tone. Hey, Ryan, listen up. Right. So now it got a little confused. It's thinking we're talking to Ryan. And instead I'm going to say, wait, I want you to write like you are, hey, Ryan, and create so I can go ahead and do it, and we're good back on course now, right? So now as I go through and start pushing forward, I can now start feeding some other stuff. I could say, can you write, now, here's the next step. I need to write an about us, about our company, right? And so I might actually switch. This is an extension that I have on that's now going to search the internet. Employee reviews of working at Applicant Pro. I'm going to go ahead and query the internet to come back with employee reviews about working at Applicant Pro. This is going to pull back knowledge for me. I'm now going to turn off web access. And I'm going to say, I need, write a compelling about our company section for our job ads and our career site. For Applicant Pro, make sure to talk a lot about our mom force, working mom workforce, and about how we pay for housekeeping, and about how we offer flexible schedules while also potential to grow. Right? Now it's going to come back and write me this content for my about our company. I could put in there, rewrite it to include. Now, we use for our core values, humble, hungry, and smart. So I might say summary of humble, hungry, and smart core values from ideal team player book. I'm going to pull this back in because that's where my values came from. It's going to pull back the knowledge about humble, hungry, and smart, and I'm going to turn it back off. It's pulling back all this research and knowledge. Now I'm going to use that to say, I want to write a compelling about working for us, about our values, written in Ryan's tone, and what we look and how our team works. I'm going to hit go. And now it's going to write us more content. So you see here, if I had just said, write up our core values or write about Applicant Pro or something like that, it wouldn't have given me the same output because I'm very picky about what my content says. I am working in partnership with Job Ad Writing AI here. Now, I like to use let's write up a day in the life story of what it will be like working with Ryan as his personal executive, bookkeeper, and spending advisor. That's what we'll call it. This is the job that we're writing here. And so this will give us a really engaging, compelling story here about the job, about what it's like to work. And so it really kind of creates this amazing job ad. Now I'm actually going to publish the results of it. I might ask it to go rewrite this to talk about how Ryan is a disorganized mess, probably still paying for subscriptions that he hasn't used in years, and that your job is to work around his disorganization to save money and keep him in the know about his finances without also wanting him to yell at you because of how OCD you are about organization. Now, I get that this is a crazy, outrageous way to write it, but my goal here is to show you just its range of what it could do here, right? So this is pulling and writing the ad for me. I could put in what are the minimum requirements for someone to be considered. Now it's going to spit out the minimum requirements for me. I don't like just going with the minimums, so I'm going to push it harder. So I might say, what will this person need to learn in the first year to be successful? We'll put the first month, quarter, and year. Now it's going to give me that to go in the ad. You see, we're over-educating, we're over-communicating with the job seeker in this ad here, not because we didn't want to before, but because it was so much work to do it. In a matter of minutes, I've created a job ad that will outperform literally any job ad you could throw at me for this position. I guarantee you I will get hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 applicants. I might finish this with write a witty call to action to get people motivated and excited about applying. And I might write one more about talk about the work life experience that although they will be mostly working remote. They do need to reside in St. George, Utah, because there are random errands that will need to be ran in person. Or they'll have to be superhuman and able to use Fiverr and errand apps to remotely, right? So it's now going to bake that in. Now, this content right here is fire. It will generate crazy applicant flow. So I just showed you, I'm working in the Talent Ninja. I'm like, this is a job ad if you dare run it. Now, one of the challenges that we always had with HR is I would write these job ads. I would teach them how to do it, but there was a problem with them taking credit for doing it. This idea of I created a job ad that's way different. I need to see it will be better and take credit and push it forward while management pushes against me. I just gave you a new secret weapon, and here's what it is. You have the AI pull lever. Here's by walking into a conversation today and saying, hey, I use this cool AI to rewrite a job ad. We're going to run it. You just put the blame on AI if it goes wrong. And you're the person who's using AI, which just massively increased your standing in your organization, period, bar none. Hey, I used AI. I cranked out this job ad. I was watching a webinar about somebody showing me how to use AI to do marketing and job ads. I cranked out, I used their framework. Look at this ad, it's awesome. I'll actually show you how I put it together. I could copy and paste right out of here, throw it into a Google Drive doc and create my ad. But I want to stick on what else we can use this for. So I might say, can you make me a list of multiple choice job questions to use to screen and rank candidates for this job. And it's now going to create me my job questions that I can then go add in to the platform. Sorry, you guys, I'm going to flow the next 25 minutes on all this. If you have to jump away, you're more than welcome to, but it's kind of coming out of my head, so I'm just going to let it roll. So if that makes you sad, I'm sorry. Hopefully you'll forgive me for this. But so this is now creating my job questions, right? Now, if I want, I could say something like, what answers should be set to immediately disqualify someone who applies? And sorry, you have to deal with my terrible spelling. So it says, oh, I don't know how to set the disqualification. Great, this is awesome. Now you'll have to go. I could instead, though, say, can you create me a scoring algo that assigns weighted scores to the answers to use to rank candidates? And so it's going to go back and give me the points on these of how to set it up in the system. This is a brief commercial break for Applicant Pro. You can load this crap right into Applicant Pro and it will then set up the screening. So this allows you to build this into your ATS. And I'm flowing it this way because that's how I use Applicant Pro. Just is what it is. So there, we got to this point. Now, I might say, hey, I need to do a video interview. Create a list of questions to use for my video interview screening for this position. Now, if you don't use video interviews, we use Wedge. You could copy and paste these into Wedge. You could record them into Wedge. You could use them in any platform if you want. It doesn't matter. They are job specific, though, if you can see this. Job specific questions that I can load into there. I could use this for I could say create a way to rank the answers we get back for these 10 questions. All right, so now when I'm hiring at Applicant Pro for my own internal hiring, I use an assessment called Preview. Bar none, greatest thing I've ever used. I literally won't even date somebody I don't give the preview to. My fiance has taken it, my ex has taken it, my kids have taken it, their kids have taken it. Everybody I mentor takes that assessment. It is a phenomenal assessment. It allows us to hire the way we hire. It is not AI, it's just an assessment. But in this instance, I now can take and use this as my buddy to say, all right, I need to come up with a process for how we're going to, I want to outline our hiring process for how we will use job questions to rank the candidates, video interviews to move them up the rankings, and the preview assessment to balance our total picture of how we will decide who our finalists are for our meeting or for our okay. So you see, again, I'm not handing everything over to AI, and I'm not allowing some tech guy to decide how it should work. I myself, business owner, business leader, business manager, HR person, I'm using AI as my little work buddy here to crank this out. I could say, give me a list of behavioral interview questions for Ryan to ask to ensure that he finds someone who is chill, laid back, yet driven, who is organized, yet able to deal with uncertainty, and that not who is able to focus on how important something is to decide how organized it needs to be. So literally, it's now going to give me my behavioral interview questions. This is very specific to the job. This, I can make it more job specific if I asked it. I could, because these are behavioral questions, they're a little bit too generic. I could do something like, can you zero in on specifically working directly for a busy entrepreneur and interacting with members of his family and team that may or may not even know who you are, right? And so it's just tuning it in more and more to get me to where I want. And in this, yes, I know I spent 2 hours, but in an hour's time, I will have scripted out this entire process. Now, at this point, I could then say, can you us a scorecard for how the team will rank and compare notes on applicants to determine who we will hire. So again, I'm not telling it to tell me who to hire. I'm telling it to create a scorecard to help my team get on the same page about who to hire. And so that really right there kind of solidifies this. This is my buddy to help me do my job faster. This is not to take my job or do it for me. Now, I can continue throughout the process, right? Like if you think about going back to the talent engine, we had attract. This right here will attract and screen amazing people. We will hire somebody amazing for this job. I'll record the results and we'll put it back in. Now, once we get that person, we're going to have a problem. Does anybody know what the problem is? This is a job that doesn't exist. Therefore, I don't have training for it. I mean, bookkeeping exists, but not, and personal assistant exists, but not at our company. We don't have a job for this person. I have a job. I need it done, but nobody's done it before. Nobody's there to train him. There's not a rule book, a manual, none of that stuff. And it's only one hire, and we're only going to make it once, which means it'd be really hard to allocate the time and attention to doing this the right way. On the other hand, if we don't do it the right way, it's going to have a massive negative impact on our CEO. We have a conundrum here that we have to solve for. The output value is high, but it's hard to prioritize because of how much work it takes. This is exactly what AI was created for. So in this instance, I can go ahead and fire back up and say, can you write an offer letter to the person we select to offer them the job, tell how great it is to work for us, and then excited about starting on April 1st. Now, at this point, we have solved the attract and select. We've made it massively easier. But now we can move to the next stage, which is my new love right now is I'm working on how do I actually what's it called? Activate this hire. How do I get this person excited about everything and knowledgeable and context around it when I can't do it on my own and I can't allocate the time to it, and I especially only want to do it once. And so in this instance, I could do, can you help me create a training program for the first 90 days of this bookkeeper executive assistant? Sure, here's an example of the training program. So now we're going to run, and I'm actually just going to stay on here in the next 15 minutes. I actually need to hire this person. This is a job I'm hiring for. So I'm literally going to show you step by step the HR side of what I would do to make this work, because I need to do it anyway. So why not do it, right? And so here's my training program. I might put, I believe that activating a new hire requires certain steps. Now, I have a framework I use for a book I've been writing, and so I'm going to jump over here really quick and find it. Sorry if this is a little messy, but I have a book I've been writing on how to activate a new hire, and it's this right here. So now I'm going to jump back in and say, I believe that activating a new hire is vital and requires certain steps. More than just the skills. So you could actually use the same exact prompt that I'm using. More than just the skills to do the job, it requires the backstory and context of our company, our customers, our products, our teams that they work and interact with, as well as their job. Here's the framework for it. I'm going to paste in my framework. And this is going to help us put together more knowledge about how to outline this theme. So I can now use this to say, I need to create training on 4 main areas. I need training about the backstory of our industry and the competitive landscape, if that's important. I need training on our customer, who we help, who we serve, and how we help them. I need training on our company, our backstory, who's who, why they're there, where we came from, all that kind of stuff. And then down in the role area, I need training that says, here's the skills you need to do, here's who you interact with, here's the processes you work with. All of that training, I need those 4 parts. That's an insane amount of training. And I basically say, I want to create a 90-day daily email training for this new hire to help them get up to speed on everything about our company, our industry, our vision, our customers, their role, and the team they interact with. We will also train them on 90-day year in how to use Agile to get projects done, and the flywheel effect of how to maintain momentum, and the 5-minute manager and the monkey about how to make sure they keep the monkeys from Ryan. Can you create 90 engaging email subjects to teach all of this? So this is now going to create all of the knowledge that I need, all the different emails for 90 days to train this person. Now, clearly, I'm going to have to go back and tweak it. I'm going to have to give it more details as we write these emails or as we outline this stuff. I'm going to have to work with it to feed it the context and to ask it the right prompts. In exchange, it will flow out amazing AI awesomeness, and I can edit it to get it perfect. And so that is the kind of interaction here. So I can actually take each of these. And so I might do something like help, what is the summary of the book, 5-minute manager and the monkey? I switch over to web access and I pull the content back because that's a book that I read. Yeah, so maybe it's the 1-minute manager and the monkey. Okay, I was wrong. Use 1 minute. So I got the name of the book wrong. So I need to rerun this query so that it pulls it back. So we get the right one back. Awesome. This pulls back this knowledge, shut it back off. And now that knowledge is in the conversation. And the way to think about AI is these are individual subject conversation strings. This is my conversation string about our company, about hiring, but specifically about this one job. If I wanted to create a different conversation string about a different job, I'd have to start a new one and feed it back that same context. Over time, we get better and better at training these models so that it remembers the context. But right now, we're not there yet. And so this basically is just going to give me the flow to be able to say, okay, I want to kick this off. Now, I'm not going to do the entire thing, but what I will do is I want to do this short. And so let's write a series of 14 emails for the first 2 weeks on the job to help our new hire, bookkeeper, exec, assistant to have clarity about what their job is, what is expected of them, what tools they need, what things they need to learn, what access they'll need, and what our drumbeat of follow-up is with having weekly stand-ups with Ryan and a monthly meeting to review results. So we're going to shrink this down and it's just going to come up with 14 days worth of stuff, right? It's going to give me, this is the introduction and outline of the 14 email subjects, right? Now, at this point, I may say, okay, I need to gather more knowledge to create this. I could just tell it to write the email, right? But instead I could say, make me a list of questions to ask Ryan to gather the context we need to write this 14-day email sequence. This is going to give us a list of questions. Now, do you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hop on Zoom with Ryan. I'm going to ask him these questions and record it with Otter. I'm going to pull that back down and feed it back into here. And now using that, I can say, write me the 2 weeks worth of emails, and it will give it the context I want. And that right there is how I would write out each of those sets of emails. So once again, you're acting as the integrator. You're pulling content from people or knowledge from people who have it. You're using the AR to drive it, but you in the middle are this hero of bringing together context and prompts and editing and following along to then where you can take it and push it to the distribution. That right there is just like, literally, I'm only on mapping out their new hire process. I'm only on mapping out their knowledge. I would use this and plug it into an email sequencer, which we're just building right now, and send a drip email every day. For this, I could say, can you come up with a stand-up and follow-up meeting schedule and meeting, what's it called that you have at the beginning of a meeting? Outline. Now it's going to come up with a schedule. I can have it give me the actual outlines of the meeting. I can tell it I want questions to ask during the meeting. I can tell it that I want it to run as agile. I can tell it that I want it to use EOS. So for instance, I could say, summarize a level 10 meeting from the how-to and outline of a level 10 meeting from EOS. Okay. So if you're familiar with EOS, it's a book that was written about level 10 meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and how to run your team. If you're running on EOS, I just pulled the internet back to give me some knowledge about it. Now I'm going to use it to say, create a meeting agenda for the bookkeep new hire to use and follow for their training and for their ongoing meetings with Ryan. And now it's going to create the agenda using EOS, using level 10 meeting. And so you see how like this is just me on steroids. AI isn't taking the place of me. It's amplifying my speed, but I'm still giving it my brain and my knowledge and feeding it and pulling information back in. And so this will script out pretty much anything I want. I could do something like, I want to make a presentation about why this job is so vital and how important it is. Can you make me a presentation deck outline? I'm just going to blow your mind for about 6 more minutes and then we'll be done. Sound good? I'll just take it to its extreme and give you 5 or 10 different things of different ways that you could use this or different things you might do around the office, right? So here, yes, and I know I don't need more coffee, but I'm getting more caffeine. So here's the outline of the presentation. I could say to make a scorecard for the new bookkeeper used to track their progress on projects, as well as a checklist to ensure they are doing their weekly bookkeeping and expense reviews. Now it's going to make me a scorecard for that so that we can go back and forth. I could have it write a weekly reminder email from Ryan to Sally, his new bookkeeping exec assistant, to get her to fill out the scorecard, give him back an overview of important points, and have her give a list of questions or roadblocks that she is running. And so now this is going to flow out an email that I could set up to go for me so that she replies back. I could have her write the template that she gives back to me. I could teach her to use AI. I can tell you the number one first thing I would do with this hire is teach them this project right here so they could do it for me, because I don't want just AI to give me more power. I want AI to empower the people I'm with, because it means we can do more with less. It means we can move faster with the same. It's probably the way I think about it. The way I think about it, especially in the tech world, instead of it being this negative game where it's like, we can do more with less, we're profit motivated, we're growth motivated. And so for me, in my culture, it's not, we can do more with less. We can do more with less translates to, we can go farther with our team. We can make a bigger impact with the people we have. We can create more leverage. Not that we can claim more value, but we can create more value. And so that kind of entire thing rolls back, that something like this gives me that ability. So that's the end of our 2-hour webinar. I hope it was valuable. I honestly am just scratching the surface. I could do all kinds of crazy stuff with this piece of software. I could have it write those emails. I could have it write me scripts. I could have it help me record videos. I can have it create scorecards and scorecards for the teams, for the different teams. I can have it actually write the content. I could have it come back and say, web access, what are the top, or what are the best how-to training videos to teach a personal executive bookkeeper, how to use QuickBooks and Excel to do her job. Clearly, I could hire a dude again. So I'll just go ahead and run a web search, right? And so it's going to come back with a bunch of knowledge. I can then tell it to actually create a training program step-by-step with links to YouTube videos to tell her to go watch them. So you can see here, like, if this was super important to me, meaning it was going to be a hire I'd replicate, this is well worth the effort. But it's also easy enough to get me pretty close on even a job that's a one-off, only one-time hire, maybe 10 hours a week, because I can afford. So that's your two ways to think about the power of this. A, I can get to high value faster on those scalable things, but also B, I can get to value quick enough to give value even when it doesn't scale, so that I'm not shortcutting things like that. And so this right here, I could go on for days, but we will end it at this point. Thank you so much for coming. I would love to hear from you. If you have comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, shoot me an email, Ryan@Refer.io. I'll type it in here so you can see it, Ryan@Refer.io. Shoot me an email. I'd love to hear your comments, suggestions, questions. Love to hear from you. Anyway, we'll talk to you later.